snacks less than 200 milligrams of sodium. So this gives you enough for 3 meals and 2 snacks per day. Doing the math on that. So for sodium, I brought us a few food products to check out so you guys can see those. Hopefully it's light enough in here. So big one that everyone talks about is always canned food. So a lot of doctors or people will say, you know, you can't eat anything in a can. And I've talked to people and said, I haven't had canned food in 20 years. But the good thing about canned food is it's really convenient and it's cheaper. You know, it stays in your pantry a long time. So I just wanted to show you guys an example of how you can use canned food. So this first one is a regular can of corn. And then I brought you guys the no salt added corn, so you can see how big of a difference in between the two. So do you guys know where to find the sodium on a nutrition facts label? Okay, so if you want to pass those around, you can see the difference between the regular corn and the no salt added corn. So what's the sodium on the regular corn?
Regular corn, it is 320 milligrams from 14%.
Oh yeah, so 320 milligrams of sodium. That's a good bit when you're trying to keep it below 2,300.
Yes.
But if you look at the no salt added, what does it say on the no salt added corn for a serving? It'll be in that left column next to the sodium.
10 milligrams.
10 milligrams, so a huge difference there.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Even though mine says low sodium, I take rich mine, beans under the water, you know, but go the can for about 3 times. Try to get rid of even the low salt.
Yeah, so that's another thing you can do if you're doing the canned beans, which are another.
Do that too, Iris.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. So even if it does have a little residual sodium on there, or maybe you were able to find the low sodium ones, but you're still trying to watch things, you know, rinsing them and draining them can be a good way to get the sodium off as well. But that's just a good example of how, you know, if you are going to do canned foods, you definitely can. Just want to look for that no salt added label on there. And so the only sodium that's going to be in there is just what's naturally found in
Raw salt is bad.
raw salt, like sea salt.
No, just drink it after you mix it up and then you sprinkle it on that.
Rather table salt.
Table salt.
Table salt. Yeah, so it's basically all going to count towards that sodium level. So there's table salt, there's sea salt, pink salt. It's all just basically different types of salt. So Mrs. Dash is really good because there's no salt in that at all. There's no salt substitutes, no salt. So it's just a blend of herbs and spices. So yeah, so Mrs. Dash is a really good one if you like the flavor of that. But basically a teaspoon of salt is this 2,300 milligrams. So if you have, you know, 1 teaspoon of salt for the whole day, then that's that number right there.
20.
Yeah, so you can see how that can add up pretty quickly. But the good thing is, you know, if you're cooking your food at home, it's a lot easier to control that salt level versus if you're going out to eat or maybe getting fast food. A lot of times you can see those numbers and, you know, they're pretty high. Maybe it's a meal has 1,000 milligrams of salt. So you can see that's, you know, half your intake for the day. Do you guys have any questions about sodium or salt?
Yes.
Yes,
So
sir.
what do the salt actually do to get this?
So the salt, when you eat too much salt, it raises your blood pressure, and then that's going to be putting that extra stress on your kidneys. Yes, sir. So, and your kidneys are also filtering out salt out of your system too. So it's both of those. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes, it is.
I've been using bouillon to season my food for quite a long time. And I don't know how to find, or where if they even make it something that doesn't have so much bouillon, but this has the beef flavor, the chicken flavor and stuff like that. Do you know of any such product on the market?
They do make some, I think it's salt-free bouillon. They do make them, but I think it may be something you have to find online, like on Amazon or something. Do you ever do any online shopping? Or not really?
I can get my daughters to do it.
Yeah, I would look for, I think they make a salt-free chicken bouillon flavor, so it just has like the chicken flavor. But yeah, I can double check on that. I'll pull something up on my phone and I'll let you know at the end.
Appreciate that because, you know, really you need a little seasoning in some of that stuff.
I didn't pay food is for birds. I ate the turkey.
Which food you said was for the birds?
Fresh. Fresh, they don't have no fear, no nothing. The bird might even try to.
Oh, so, you know, the way to get around that really is by cooking your food at home. And, you know, if you're putting a little sprinkle of salt, you're going to stay under this 2,300 milligrams. But, you know, if you got to go out and get food, then it's going to add up a lot quicker. But, you know, sometimes you just have to get creative with the different seasonings and flavors. So, you know, you can add lemon juice or vinegar or lime juice or any types of spices you like. They're all good for the kidneys. It's just that salt that you want to limit. Okay, so good questions there. But yeah, so after sodium, probably the next most important thing would be the protein in your diet. So this it's the exact amount of protein in your diet depends on your body size, your medical conditions, and your stage of kidney disease. So for most people, a low protein diet is going to be recommended because your kidneys are also filtering out protein out of your system. And if you're eating an excess amount of protein, then they're having to work kind of hard to filter that out.
A little cheese,
Cheese. So cheese can be a little tricky because it has protein and then it also has potassium and phosphorus, which we're going to talk about on the next slide. But you know, including the small amount of it in your diet is possible. It's just important to think about the serving size too. But protein is in things like dairy products and meat like chicken, fish, turkey, beef, eggs, and then there's also plant-based protein, which is in things like tofu, beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, and whole grains, like brown rice or wheat bread. Those have plant-based protein in them. So, oh no, that's not what I'm going for here. No, we're going to talk about the things that you can eat too, and these are some really good ones. These plant-based proteins. So, hello. So these plant-based proteins are really good to include. So there's been a lot of research done on the different types of protein, and we found that the plant-based proteins are actually easier for your kidneys to digest than the animal proteins. So if you are trying to be easier on your kidneys, doing more plant-based proteins is going to be really helpful. So for example, a lot of times when people are trying to eat more plant-based proteins, they'll do like a meatless Monday, one day a week, where instead of having meat for dinner, you have maybe some beans or some tofu instead of that animal product. But yeah, those are it's definitely good to include. Do you guys have any questions about plant-based protein? Vegetarian. So some people do choose to go fully vegetarian, but you know, even if you make a small step towards that, like just one day a week or one meal out of the week, you're doing that, it's still going to have an impact. So it doesn't have to be 0 or 100. You know, you can fall somewhere in between those two. Yes, sir.
There's one animal protein. I know it. All of it's not good for you, but it's one actually a little bit better than the other one. So maybe chicken.
Yeah. So as far as the kidneys go, really all the animal proteins are going to have a similar impact, but with the different meats, you really want to think about the impact that it's going to have on your heart. So, you know, as we talk about, the heart and the kidneys are really closely related. So some of the meats that are higher in saturated fat, so like red meat, or, you know, a real fatty cut of pork or something like that. Those are the ones that you want to limit due to their saturated fat content. But, you know, if you're buying meat, you want to just try and get the leanest meat possible.
good too. Like, I live with my sister and brother. We like 4.
Okay.
And it's boiling it, put like a little cup full of vinegar in it. Yeah, something or.
I mean, it would help flavor it definitely. And probably tenderize it.
Does certain meat have higher protein than other meats, like poultry, beef, or
They're all
which one have the highest
the
protein?
highest protein content. They're really all pretty similar, like between those per ounce, between like 6 to 9 grams of protein per ounce. So it's really when you're doing the low protein diet, you just want to watch your portion size of protein. So I'll give an example of that here soon. But as I said, the exact amount is going to depend on your individual situation. So if you need to know the exact number, definitely we can set up an appointment. I'll calculate it for you and we can plan everything out. But in general, you want to keep your meat, your protein portion to like the size of a deck of cards or like the size of the palm of your hand. And that's about 3 ounces of protein with your meals.
So chicken, if you boil it, like take it off, but take the skin out. I don't like boils.
Okay.
I like my
Fair.
but if you boil it, just take the skin. And most of the time when I clean my chicken, I pull the fat off of this on the side.
Yeah.
So and then pull it off the bone and like that. So
Yeah.
that's good and stuff like that.
Yeah, because the skin and that white fat you see on it, that's where a lot of the cholesterol and the saturated fat is. So, if you can trim all that and get rid of it, then you're saving a lot of saturated fat.
They said, well, babe, it's a chicken, but no, you don't kill it. I really did. Actually did.
You said you bathe it?
Yeah, she was. She don't use the dish cloth, but she's standing in running water like she just bathing that. It's a chicken.
I know, and I know there's a big debate on whether you should wash your chicken and things like that, so we won't get into that.
Especially when thinking about beans, so some patients, especially when they are advanced in kidney problem or disease, they have some restriction with phosphorus. So beans, I like it, and many people like it, but we have probably issues with the amount of phosphorus that they have. So some alternative for that.
So the good thing is, and we can go ahead on to phosphorus now. Or next was potassium. We'll skip to phosphorus. So with phosphorus, phosphorus is found in any food's protein. So it's in meat, and then it's also in those plant-based foods. But there's different types of phosphorus in these foods. So in the first type, there's the organic phosphorus. And I'm going to answer your question. I'm sure
Don't worry.
I'm going to explain everything.
It's fine.
I'll get you your answer. So it's naturally found in foods with protein. And so on a spectrum, meat foods with phosphorus, the body is absorbing about 60% of that phosphorus. And then less than that, you have your plant-based proteins like your nuts, beans, and grains. The body is really only absorbing about 40%